Welcome, MotoAmerica fans. Another episode of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice, our weekly podcast in which we speak about all things motorcycling, but mostly the all-important MotoAmerica Championship. Sean, speaking of that, we're right on the cusp of heading to Texas and joining MotoGP at Circuit of the Americas in Austin, and our first Superbike round of the season. So it's fitting that we have PJ Jacobsen with us today, who will be taking part in the Medallia Superbike Championship this year, and we're excited to get to COTA. And those poor Dorna people at MotoGP are having a heck of a time at this point because they've got that mess going on in Argentina, and the planes didn't show up with half their stuff, or a bit of their stuff anyway. They can't participate at all until everybody has their stuff. So I feel for those guys, but I'm sure the things will resolve themselves here. I guess the planes are supposed to show up some point this evening, and then those guys will be working all night, and they'll start practice on Saturday morning, which is going to be a bit different for them. But anyway, let's focus our efforts on MotoAmerica and headed to COTA. You all ready?
Oh boy, am I ever in? I mean, it's amazing when we look back at it. Life goes by so quickly that I didn't realize. Well, I guess I realized, but it's hard to believe it's been a couple of years since we've been there. And I think it's because we had a test there last year, but didn't race there. So that it'll be great to go back. And it's funny, Paul. I mean, some of the things that we advance all the time in MotoAmerica, that if you miss a round of track for a year or so, it really seems like quite a long time ago that we haven't done it. So I'm definitely looking forward to getting back there. Plus, they've done some changes to the track surface too. So I'm anxious to hear about that as well. So yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. And it's always good to hook up with the MotoGP guys. There's certain things that we face that make the event a little bit more difficult for us, but overall it's definitely worth it, because obviously the exposure we get through joining them is massive. So let's talk a little bit about PJ before we bring him in. We can talk bad about him or good about him, whatever you want to do, and then we'll bring him in and see how he reacts to it. But it's funny, this morning I'm like, damn, the only time I could remember that we had PJ on was at Laguna Seca back in 2019. And I'm like, it can't be that long. And
it was, yeah.
No, it wasn't. We did have him on. We had him on in January of 2021.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where we had him talking about, basically what was going to be his new career. And that's coaching other riders, et cetera. And
yes,
he never closed the book on racing, but I mean, it was kind of closed. And I'm just thrilled that he's getting another opportunity to come back and race Superbike, because obviously the way things ended for him, it's fitting that that's not the end. If you know what I mean, he deserves better, and he's going to get better.
Yep.
He's going to be racing on a Tytlers Cycle Racing BMW. Now, thankfully, you corrected my pronunciation of Tytlers, because I was going with the other one, which, kind of sounded good, but it might not have been good. You know what I mean? So thanks for saving me on that. So it's Tytlers Cycle Racing BMW. These guys have, it's a nice, big, solid team of BMWs, and I'm excited to see what these guys have. There's some experienced guys there that know how to run race teams, and I think it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be great. And I mean, they, new team, but they've got some good personnel involved there. Dave Weaver is the team manager and is going to be crew chief for Hector, PJ's teammate. But, PJ is going to be working with Scott Jensen, who he's got a long history with. And Scott is a terrific guy, and he's been in our paddock, done a lot of stuff with different teams, as well as was a solid rider years ago. So it's they've got some veterans in that group, and I know they've got good bikes that have been built by Alpha Racing, and they're the M models, the brand new ones with the wings on them and everything. So it's going to be great to see those bikes in the series. And I'm just thrilled to have PJ back racing for the first time with us in Superbike, which it's hard to believe, with all that he's done in his career, that he's going to be in Superbike with us now after doing, World Superbike and World Supersport. So in Supersport with us here. So he's done a lot of racing, but it's great to have him in our Medallia Superbike series this year with that team. So yeah.
Well, PJ, let's talk to you if you can tell how excited Sean and I are. And just to let you know, even though we've done like, a hell of a lot of podcasts since we've had you on here last, we're still not any good at it. So apparently practice doesn't make perfect, but PJ, you've got to be excited to get rolling next week in Texas.
Yeah, guys, thank you. I appreciate you, having me on the podcast here. It's been a while since 2021 when I started to take a different role in my career, and that was coaching. So it's great to be talking to you guys and to be getting back into the MotoAmerica paddock in the racing department.
Tell us a little bit about how this all came together with the new team, and did you get contacted? Have you known about it for a long time, or is it just something that's come together of late for you?
Yeah, I started to speak with a few different teams, at the end of the season, because after the season I had coaching and stuff, it went really well for me. And then I started to get a lot more people interested in the whole coaching thing. But yeah, I was on the other side, seen the other side, and I've been on the other side of being a motorcycle racer. So it really drove me to wanting to be back in the paddock to race a bike, because it was even though I was coaching, and I feel like I was doing the best job that I could be doing and giving, but it really hurt me on the weekends to be there throughout the whole weekend and just sitting there watching guys that you race against and not being out on the track. It really hurt me every weekend, even though I still liked my job as the whole coaching thing, and it was new to me. But racing's been my life since I've been 3 years old, and to sit back and just watch it was quite hurtful.
PJ, I don't want to disparage anything about Sam Lockoff as a rider, because he's a terrific rider. We've seen that, and we could see it even in the past. I mean, he did some good stuff with Westby, and even when he was with HSBK there. I mean, he had an unfortunate circumstance where he'd broken his femur, but you really transformed him. I mean, he's the odds-on favorite to do something with that championship this year. And I mean, he had that win last year against Richie and Sean Dillon Kelly. I mean, can you tell us what it is with Sam, or what you worked with him most? Was it his racecraft? Was it his mind, his fitness? I mean, what exactly did you do to transform him?
Yeah, after everything happened in 2020, I was searching for a ride in 2021, and nothing really came about for me. And then, I heard that Sam was going to go to M4, and I started to. His dad got in touch with me and a couple other people, Barry from Celtic, and it kind of all came together. And then the whole thing was I was gonna coach Sam for the season, coach him until March, I think it was, for the start of the season, like a winter program.
Okay.
So that all came together, and then that was my new role in my career to do that. So I moved down to Florida basically in January with him, and his dad put a lot of effort, and so did Sam, and that's what you need to do in motorcycle racing. So we were training every day, and that kid was riding supermoto or at Jennings, 3 days a week, or training, running and in the gym. So there was a lot to go into his program, and the whole program of that really, made Sam the rider I believe he is now. He's a very smart kid, and he was learning throughout the whole season. And when you tell him something, he was doing it. So it was really good, and he listened to me a lot. He also had Jake Zemke at the races as well. But we'd come home from the races and we'd get right back into training, either riding or physical training on the rowing machine or indoor bicycling or something. So he put a lot of effort in, and that's why I think he has some talent. So that all coming together, I think really made him the rider he is. And now, yeah, he has a pretty good opportunity and a chance this season to go for the championship.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize that again. I mean, I'm not denying at all that he has talent. He clearly does. You brought it out in him though, and it's terrific that you were able to do that. What did that do for you though? I mean, you obviously worked out with him. You kind of kept your eye on the ball in terms of what he was doing, and I know you continued to ride a lot. So did you step up your program at all with Sam, or did you just have him join in with what you were already going to be doing? I mean, did it prepare you for this season to work with Sam, I guess is the question.
I kind of I have a program that I had a program for in 2015 when I almost won the World Supersport World Championship when I was going against Keenan Sofoglu, and I kind of gave Sam that plan. And that's the plan that I still train with, but I've increased it even more this year. Sam, I gave him that training plan, and it really worked for me in 2015 of almost winning the World Championship. And I know as a rider, like what worked for me, so I tried giving that to him, and I think that was a huge benefit for him.
Okay, PJ, the training and everything aside, and having that program. You've done some testing recently on the BMW. How difficult is it to go from not racing a superbike to suddenly being on a superbike when there's been a gap of you actually being, in competition? Is it as hard as we would think it would be, or is it like they say it's just like riding a bike?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a little difficult, being away from the racing and being in the mix of things, not racing people for quite a while, but in last year, I did a lot of riding with that kid Sam because I had my own bike that his dad supplied as well. So I was riding just as much as him. And this year as well, I moved down to Florida in December, and I've been riding, and I've been coaching as well, like Supermoto and my Ovali, 4 or 5 days a week. So I've been doing a lot of riding and preparing a lot for this season, especially, because I know I have one last kind of opportunity to do it, and I've been putting a lot of effort into my program this year.
Now, you mentioned you have a last opportunity, and it probably does feel like that. Some people would be surprised that you've actually got the opportunity again, because we kind of stopped thinking about you a little bit. It was nice to see you in the paddocks, and we were always reminded that you were there and what you should be doing, but it's really cool that you're getting a chance to do it. Now, tell us a little bit about you. You've tested the bike. Is it once or twice you've tested it so far? And what were your feelings about the BMW, because it's obviously probably something completely different than you've ever ridden?
Yeah, for sure. I in 2020 when I was riding the Ducati, I saw how fast it was at Road America, the BMW, and I knew that bike would be quite good, and I've been seeing what they've been doing in World Superbike, and now that the Alpha is a part of the program as well, I knew that this program would be very good, and all the people involved, especially. But yeah, we did a first test at Roebling, and everything's been come together at the end here. Like it's getting quite close to COTA, and this whole thing kind of came together just very, very quickly at the end. So we tested what we could at Roebling, and unfortunately we had a lot of wet riding conditions through our testing, but the bike feels really good in the wet conditions. I'm really happy with how the BMW is feeling, and the team is working really well. So we also just got back from a 2-day test at Jennings. We had one day in dry conditions, which was my first time, and was pretty impressed with the bike. And I think that it's just going to obviously keep getting better, but we have a lot to learn as a team and myself about the bike, but we made huge improvements, and I'm feeling a lot more comfortable on the bike. And then the second day, we also had another wet condition, and, me and my crew chief, Scotty, we tried some things that we weren't so happy with a little bit at Roebling, and we tried them at Jennings, and everything went really well. And at Roebling and Jennings, I think our lap times in the wet were super, super fast. So I've been pretty impressed, and the whole team's been working great together.
Yeah. And, PJ, I mean, I made a point of this when we did a post about you guys at Roebling that, that's one thing about our series, with the exception of Daytona. And we don't race superbikes there anyway. And we don't race there on a wet track, but we do race on wet tracks in superbike, and certainly proved that last year at Barber. So going to Roebling and getting some wet track time was certainly beneficial. I mean, maybe not the first day out for a first test, but it's always good to have it. I want to ask you a little bit about your team. I'd mentioned about, Dave Weaver's involved, and obviously Scott's your crew chief. Do you guys have a data engineer, and is it somebody from here or somebody from Alpha? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, we have someone from Alpha helping us with the electronics. And then, Dave is there doing that as well. And so is Scotty. So we're all learning, but yes, we have a lot of help, from Alpha on the technical side. So that's been a huge plus. And, he was at Jennings, and it was working very well. So it's going in the right direction with everything. And like I said, everything is brand new for everybody. Everyone's new to the BMW, the whole team, everybody. So it's all a working progress. And it's just going to keep getting better and better as we learn more about the bike.
Going to COTA, is that a difficult place for you to begin your season, all things considered, or does it not really matter? I mean, you're obviously going in there fairly green with the team, with the bike, with everything. So, I mean, we probably shouldn't expect, fantastic results, but obviously with you and your teammate Hector, I mean, there's good riders, and it's obviously a good bike. So does going to COTA for the first one seem more daunting than it would if we were going to Road Atlanta, or does it make any difference?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, going into COTA, I know the track a little bit, not like too well. But yeah, it's everyth's brand new, and the BMW is going to be ridden there, the new bike, pretty much the first time. So yeah, the first session or so, it might take us a little bit to get up to speed, but I don't want to say where we're going to be at or anything. We might surprise people, and who knows, but yeah, sometimes it's hard to go against teams right away that already have their information from past years, so many years of just going there all the time, and they're ready to go for free practice one. So obviously it's not going to be like that for us, but eventually we're gonna, I think, get there in the end, and just keep trying to build towards getting to the front.
PJ, you mentioned that you do train on the Ovalis, and we'd run a couple of videos of you. And there's one in particular I want to talk to you about. This is the first I've talked to you about this, but so we did, I don't remember what track you were at, but you were doing a bunch of essentially stoppies going into some of the turns. And I had put in the caption jokingly, top rack who, and some people were like making fun of it, but I know for a fact you weren't doing what Top Rack does, which is just to do a stoppie coming into the garage. You looked like you were working on something. It looked like it was corner entry, maybe something with getting that back end loose and moving it around a little bit. What were you trying to do there?
Yeah, the Ovali is always, I'm very strong on the brakes, and I'm always at my braking limit on the Ovali, and if I go past it, obviously I run a little bit wide, or you run off the track. But yeah, I think it's on the BMW, the brakes are very strong on that as well. So I could see at some of these other tracks like that same thing happening for us. And I think that it's just really strong braking, and like Road Atlanta, for example, COTA, you might see that. So I just feel I feel very confident on my little bike, and I think that eventually on the BMW I'm going to feel just as confident as that, and probably end up riding the bigger bike like that.
So what you do on the Ovali actually translates to being on a super bike. It's a good training bike for you for that. Then it sounds like, right?
Yeah, just like going fast on the super bike and stuff, you're going to be at your limits and your braking limits and stuff. And the brakes are very strong on our BMW super bike. So, I mean, that's what's going to probably end up happening in the tighter corners where you really have to get the bike stopped.
One thing, PJ, I know about you, or at least I think I know, is I think it seems like you like the color black quite a bit. And the Roebling Road test, it was interesting to see that you were there on a obviously completely all black bike. And as I understand it, since you've actually been a Revit customer for a few years, Revit leathers, you were wearing a set of leathers from a few years ago. And so kudos to you that you can fit in those. I know your training probably makes that so it's not that surprising, but for somebody like me, I would never want to try that. But the fact that you were all black at Roebling Road and all black in your leathers was a cool look. But do you have any idea what delivery of the bike is going to be? It's obviously not going to be like that, but you sure did look like Darth Vader at that track testing.
Yeah, for sure. I kind of weird guy. I don't really like colors too much. So yeah, I like the black and gray kind of look and gold and I don't know, that kind of like darker look. But yeah, I'm not really sure. Like you have to just get surprised at COTA and see what the team comes out with.
Yeah, and tell us, those leathers are from when? When did you wear those?
I think I had them made. The leathers I was wearing. Actually, I think they were made in 2019 because I was actually supposed to possibly replace Lafferty on the Ducati at Laguna, but I didn't because he ended up riding because he was still fit to ride.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk. Go ahead.
I don't really like grow much. I'm stay the same size.
Yeah, small.
Yeah.
So. Speaking of small, he's also small, but let's talk a little bit about your teammate, Hector Barbera. Do you have any knowledge of him before? Did you know him when you were in Europe at all? Or is this kind of a first meeting, in MotoAmerica?
Yeah, no, I just know obviously his name and his past and what he's done and everything. But yeah, that was my first time meeting him at the Roebling test. And I didn't really meet him last year just because we never really, I guess, we're in the paddock, but we weren't in similar situations, I guess. But yeah, it was my first time meeting him at Roebling, and yeah, he's a really nice guy, and he seems to work really well. But it's good to have him as a teammate because he's already rode the BMW all season last year with the other team he was with. So he gives some good information, and he seems like a very nice guy, and he has a lot of experience. So I think that's a huge plus.
Yeah, it's funny because at the end of last year, when I look back on the season, he was a guy that really surprised me. I thought he did really well considering, his situation that he was in, his first time at the tracks, et cetera, et cetera. But he's got that old school style where when you watch him, he looks like he's not going fast. And then you see the stopwatches of the timing and scoring screen and it's a completely different situation because he is going fast. Does your styles, is it going to help you with him on the team as far as sharing information, or your styles and such so different that it won't be that much help?
Yeah, I think we'll be quite similar and stuff with a lot of things. And he's a smaller rider as well, so that's a good thing. If I had say Loris as my teammate or something, like he's totally opposite. So obviously we wouldn't be able to share too much information because the bike would be set up so much different. So Hector's pretty good because we're quite the same size and the weight I'm not sure about, but it's quite similar. So I think it's pretty good. And if one of us is struggling, we'll be able to share some information to help the other rider.
PJ, you mentioned earlier Barry Gilson and from Celtic Racing, who's a guy who's been in your corner for a long time, and you guys have done a lot of stuff together. And I'm sure that's continued over time. And you mentioned that kind of led to this deal that you've got this year. Will Barry have any involvement in the team this year, or will he be coming to any of the rounds?
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be at a lot of the rounds. He's been in my corner since I've been like 10 years old. On a 125, he's the one who got me started. But yeah, him, Richie Alexander, Corey Alexander, Larry Pegram, a whole bunch of people. I just really, Michael Kiley, the team owner. I just want to thank everybody for believing in me and giving me this opportunity, because a lot of people's names, even that I haven't mentioned, really pushed me forward on this whole deal. And I was just like, it's very positive to get talked about and my name pushed forward to say, hey, he's one of the riders that you should be looking at. So I'm very appreciative of all these people for believing in me.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the team a little bit, because I'd been following it for a little while, and talking to Michael Kiley a little bit. You mentioned a little bit Corey on that side of the equation, and it took me a little bit to understand. So the Superbike team is Hector and you, and it's called Tytlers Cycle Racing. Then there's Corey Alexander and Travis Wyman on Tytlers Cycle Ride HVMC Racing, and they're also going to be racing all season in Superbike, but they will be racing on stock 1000 spec bikes, and they're also going to race in stock 1000. So it's not quite like last year when they would race those bikes for Superbike Cup. They're actually going to be competing in 2 Superbike races every weekend on those bikes, as well as 1 or 2 stock 1000 races, depending on which round. So, and they will be there at COTA as well. So the team is going to have 4 riders on BMW M1000Rs, 2 Superbike spec machines that you and Hector are riding, and then 2 stock 1000s. So as I understand it, you guys have kind of been testing. You've been at Roebling, Jennings, you mentioned, and Corey and Travis have been out at Chuck Wallace. So it sounds like there's 2 transporters. Dave Weaver's handling the one side. Richie Alexander is handling the other side, Corey's uncle. And then you guys are going to kind of come together at COTA. Have you guys gotten together as one big giant team yet? It sounds like no.
No, we haven't, but
Right.
There's been, a lot of probably information shared and stuff like that. So, everyone's speaking and well aware of everything that's going on. But yeah, it's, we're all come together at COTA, and then from there on, we'll probably, start to work together again and just get everyone together and keep moving the whole program forward.
All right, PJ, I got a question for you that's kind of silly. Did anyone call you about a baggers ride?
Good question.
Yeah, actually, I got a couple of offers on the bagger rides, but they were, in November time.
Right.
So yeah, I got a couple offers on those. Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, you've obviously been watching them. I mean, it surprised me with how good it is and how fun it is to watch, and it looks like the guys have a good time riding them. Is that kind of what you come away from with feeling about that?
Yeah, I think that's really good, for Harley and Indiana and the series. And that's, another class that's I guess a totally different kind of focus. But yeah, just as of right now, yeah, I'm not really like, keen to ride in that class. Like I'm more, focused on that. I want to ride in Superbike and try to get myself back up to where I know I can be, and just finish some unfinished business in my career that I think I've just left behind.
Yeah, and PJ, I'm going to speak for you a little bit on this, because I know you're well thought of in the paddock, and there are so many teams I know that have approached you or asked about you, and I know that you're a purist a little bit about what you want to do, or at least you've got a pretty narrow focus, which is terrific, because it's gotten you to where this is going to be a Superbike ride this year. And to your point and to what Paul said, I mean, there were some other rides that you could have taken, but you've been selective because you know what you want to do, and it's great that you're going to be able to do it this year. One thing I don't know the answer to, and I kind of think I do, but I want to ask you this: have you ever raced at COTA before?
No, I have not raced at COTA before. I've only rode what is it, an FJ 1200 there, because I was supposed to possibly go ride that Australian
oh yeah
thing. Yeah, that Australian vintage thing. I forgot, but yeah, I rode there for like 3 days on that bike. It was pretty fun, and I got to know the track quite well. But yeah, that's the only time I've been there. I've never raced at COTA.
Yeah, that was the thing with PJ, you're PJ, with Jason Pridmore. and JP instead of PJ actually, and that's what threw me off. And also Josh Hayes. So that's interesting that you were going to be involved in some of that as well. That's a different type of motorcycle too, man. That's a lot of muscle. I guess they're fast, but you have to muscle those babies around a little bit. And there's no electronics from what I understand on them. But boy, you've ridden a lot of different things or had offers to ride a lot of different things. But this is terrific that, you know, you're back on this M1000 RR Alpha Racing built. And from what I understand, pretty close to what they're running in World Superbike. Is that what you understand as well?
Yeah, it's pretty similar to I believe the spec World Superbike. So it's a for real package, and that's why I think, you know, once the team gets to know the bike a bit more, I think it's just going to keep on, you know, getting better and better, and we just got to keep improving. You know, there's you have bad days and good days, and you just got to keep on moving forward.
Yeah. So one more question I want to ask you about this going into this year. So we don't know what the livery is going to look like yet. You would hope for a little bit of black and gray or gold or whatever, but we know BMW colors are interesting too. Do you know, it sounds like I saw from the test that Steve Weir is there. He's with an organization called Weir Everywhere Racing. And I think he's a consultant for BMW North America, but we see him bopping around the track everywhere. I mean, he worked pretty primarily with Travis Wyman, but heck, I saw him with Jeremy Cook last year working on his electronics. So he kind of goes around and gets involved in a lot of the teams. Is he that same role with you guys? Is he considered an actual member of the team, or was he at Roebling to consult, and will he be in and out of your team during the season this year?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that he'll be in and out of both. Like, we're all pretty much one team, you know, but he'll be going back from rig to rig, I'm pretty sure. And you know, it's my first time meeting Steve at the test at Roebling, and he's a great guy. So yeah, it's really good to have him part of this whole program as well. So it's going to be a really good program, and there's a lot of talented people there that don't ride a motorcycle, you know.
Right. And here's something I have to ask you this, PJ. You mentioned you've been in Florida. I know you're from, well, they call it upstate New York, but as I've said, it's called downstate from where I grew up, because I grew up near the Adirondacks. So where you lived was pretty much the city, although you get winter there just like you did when I was growing up in Northern New York. So did you do any ice racing last year? Probably not if you were in Florida. When was the last time you ice raced?
Yeah, I haven't done any ice riding in a long time, actually. It's been a couple of years, to be honest with you. I used to love to do that all the time, but I'll tell you what, like, once you get to warmer weather, and you get out of the snow, you just question yourself, like, why am I living in New York where it's freezing cold?
So that what you're saying is, I get it. I mean, heck, snowmobile in the winter because, well, what else are you going to do? You ice rode because you want to ride a motorcycle, and that's what was going on outside. You know, of course, you were able to hone a lot of skills with doing that, and there's some benefits to doing that kind of racing. But if you had your choice, you'd prefer just to go out on a kart track on a volley or supermoto bike to ice racing. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you know, like when you come down here, like, you can just get so much more training in, and I can be at the kart track, you know, like almost 7 days a week if I wanted to. So I can be riding my supermoto bike, the old volley, you know, you can be bicycling down here, swimming, running, like everything. It's pretty much, you know, you pretty much have everything. Like, it's the same as, you know, California or something. If you go there for the winter, like, you have the weather to do everything. And, you know, New York kind of shuts you down, and you do more indoor training, and then, you know, you're freezing cold riding an ice bike. So yeah, I think I prefer being in a warmer area.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think Paul does too, right? Paul's from San Diego or San Clemente now.
Yeah, I don't like to be cold at all. I'm kind of bummed today because it's cloudy and it looks like I might have to put long pants on. I don't even like doing that. So I'm a real wuss when it comes to being cold. Like, I always the ice riding looks so fun when I see it. And then I think, man, I don't know. I think I'd be a little cold doing it, but it sure looks fun, especially that stuff they do in Wisconsin. And Paul James from Harley Davidson's big in it. And there's like this endurance race they do that the course looks like it has like 100 corners in it, and it just looks like a lot of fun. But I always get invited to go, but so far I haven't. I haven't figured that I want to be that cold yet, but maybe one day. But anyway, we're gonna go ahead and cut PJ loose here. Let him get out and get training. And PJ, we're really pumped that you're going to be part of our series this year. It's going to be exciting that you're in the big boy superbike class. I think you'll fare well. I think that team's going to be exciting to watch because there's going to be a lot of improvement from race 1 to the last race of the season, obviously. So congrats on getting that ride. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me on, and I'll see you guys at COTA.
Sounds good, PJ.
All right, bye guys.